Southeast is drying out as high pressure has dominated our weather the last month. But changes are around the corner as chances for rain increase once we get to the middle of November. We will talk about this and more in the 2023 edition of the Water Resources Outlook. Here is Jeff getting us started with our climatology.
Thanks, Todd. So let's start with the last 30 days of precipitation, and we see that we have been wet across Florida during this early fall season. It really hasn't been because of tropical weather, but rather persistent thunderstorm activity from stalled fronts in that area. Elsewhere, rainfall has been limited, especially across the Carolinas there, where most areas have seen less than 2 inches of rainfall the past 30 days. And the upper reaches of many of our watersheds in the southeast also seen limited rainfall. And when we look at the departures from normal, we see lots of yellow and orange color there, meaning 2 to 4 inches below normal. And this is not really out of the ordinary for the southeast, especially when tropical activity plays such an important part of the rainfall climatology. In those years, we see a light season. Typically, we're going to be on the deficit side of rainfall. So when we look at where we've been since the beginning of the year, we see scattered areas of being several inches above normal, shown by the purple colors there, but many areas also near normal. And so we were talking about those areas in the far upper reaches of the watersheds being drier, and we're seeing that being represented as well in the stream flows here. Lots of orange dots there in the headwater basins of Georgia and Alabama, as well as the Carolinas, showing below normal stream flows, but also see some below normal in the Florida Panhandle, as well as in west central Florida. And the drier weather has allowed drought to creep into the region as well in these same locations. We're now seeing drought across the upper PD, Santee, and Savannah River basins, as well as across Alabama, the western Florida Panhandle, and again, parts of west central Florida. So we're in week 43, and as far as river flooding, this is typically the quietest time of year, as you see there. And this is also true for central and southern Florida as their wet season comes to a close and the tropical season calms down. And for the southeast, by late October, climatology also tells us our activity diminishes considerably by this time of year. The tropics can remain active, but the tropics' influence on the southeast usually falls off by now. And so we'll have to see if this is true for this year as well. If we do get back to something we see there on the chart, it usually is the Florida Peninsula that is affected looking back at the past. So that's all I had for here. Here is Haley with the meteorology.
There's not a whole lot to the weather story this week. We start off today with high pressure centered over the mid-Atlantic. This high pressure is dominating across the region and is allowing our dry stretch of weather to continue. And this setup persists into Friday and Saturday as well. Late in the weekend, though, we start to see a cold front begin to approach from the northwest. And as this cold front works into the area, it quickly loses its moisture. It's not impossible that a little bit of rain makes it into some of the far northern and northwestern portions of our area in the Carolinas, Alabama, and Mississippi. But in general, though, expect the dry weather to continue. By Tuesday, high pressure and cooler temperatures sink southeast into the region behind this front. And then for the middle of the week, that high pressure just continues to work its way east. Now, WPC's QPF really emphasizes the dry weather story, with very little to no rainfall across the southeast over the next 7 days. However, that story may change moving further ahead. The latest 8 to 14-day precipitation outlook from the Climate Prediction Center has some portions of the southeast outlook near normal, but most of the region has the chance to see above normal rainfall.
Thank you, Haley. As a continuation from your Week 2 outlook of better chances for rain in the southeast, here is the outlook that takes us out to the middle of the month from the Climate Prediction Center. Models are indicating a change in the pattern, with it becoming more active as we approach the middle of the month. And getting out from under this high pressure that has been over the southeast will need to happen if we are to see above normal precipitation over all of the southeast for the month of November. And while I can't help but wonder when that pattern is going to switch to a more wet one, history still tells me that it will shift and the effects of El Niño should pick up sometime during the month. Models are hinting at it also. If that shift in the weather pattern doesn't occur early enough, this month could be more near normal or below. Again, just looking at the moderate to strong El Nino prediction we are seeing here gives more confidence that we will see that change in the pattern. I know we showed this last month, but it doesn't hurt to show it again. There is definitely a wet anomaly during El Niños across the southeast, but especially when it is a moderate to strong one. And while, again, I may be repeating myself from our last two outlooks, it still looks to be a wet winter. It has been pretty consistent for a while, and so we continue to have confidence that we are going to have above normal rainfall for the winter and likely an above normal amount of river flooding. This will likely continue into the spring as the Climate Prediction Center continues that wet pattern through April. So the bottom line, in the short term, it continues to stay dry across the area. That high pressure is sitting there and just won't go away, so it looks to stay dry. Late in week 2, we could start to see a break in that pattern and start to see some rain, but we'll just have to see. Like I said, it's going to be timing on that. Long term, El Nino should remain moderate to strong, which means our winter should remain active, and an above normal amount of flooding is expected during that time. Maybe we'll have a little better idea when we do our next Water Resources Outlook on November 16th, 2023. Thank you all for listening.